All right, the time is now 10 a.m. and I would just like to welcome everyone to the 2020 virtual JSEB Procurement Summit. My name is Rita Scott and I'm going to be your host for today. And I'd just like to say welcome. This is our very first virtual JSEB Procurement Summit. And we are super excited to host this event in a virtual environment. As you know, the COVID-19 has caused us to get creative to conduct our business. And I'm thankful for platforms like Zoom that allow us to continue doing our business virtually while keeping everyone safe in their respective environments. This meeting is being recorded and will be used to create a video outlining the highlights of this event. Attendees will be placed on mute throughout the course of the meeting. Attendees will be unmuted as they are recognized to ask questions. If you have questions and would like to speak, please click participants. Next slide, please, Lynn. You will see some icons. You're going to click the raise hand button to signify when you would like to speak. Rochelle Weir will advise Rita Scott when the attendee raises their hand. When the host recognizes the attendee, Rochelle Weir will take the attendee off of mute, or you may unmute yourself. The attendee will be able to address their question or concern and will be placed back on mute. The host will ask if any attendees on the phone have questions as well. They will self-unmute to ask their question. You can also place your question in the chat box as well. If at any time you lose your internet connection and get kicked out, please sign back into the meeting. You will be readmitted. The Zoom Tech team, consisting of myself, Rita Scott, Rochelle Weir, Lynn Ricks, and Robert Kinney, ask for your patience as we navigate in this new virtual environment. Please know that we have attempted to create an experience that allows you an opportunity to engage in this virtual summit with the least of issues. Now, let's get this meeting started. I'd like to hand it over to Paul McElroy for opening comments, our Interim Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you, Rita, and good morning to everybody. I want to thank everybody for participating today in this extraordinary event during these extraordinary times. This is a virtual program, and we're doing everything we can to outreach to each and every one of you and provide you with the support to make your businesses successful and to make our relationships successful in the future. We certainly would prefer to do this face-to-face, and we will in the future. But for now, we have this exciting first in time JSEB Procurement Summit in a virtual setting. You represent small businesses, and small businesses are the backbone of our economy. You're so important to the growth and the development of our community, and it really rests with you as individuals. And we as a community-owned utility have a mandate to help you be successful so you can help us be successful. We can grow together. This program has been, and I'm sure you'll hear some history about it, it's been in existence for almost 2 decades now, close to it. It provides you with potentially expedited or does payment terms, technical and educational assistance, possibly short-term lending programs, bonding assistance, sort of a basket of services and assistance programs to make you successful and having you work with us in terms of growing and developing our community. In this year, we'll spend over $17 million on this program. It will be 25% of our available spend in these product categories. So it's a significant amount of dollars and opportunity. Next year, our target will even be higher. And so there are opportunities with significant dollars in a wide range of possible services. We have over 89 JSEB performed work in the last year for us. So there's a good range and number of individuals participating in this program. As we go forward this next year, and just to give you an idea, and there'll be, I think, more of this in the program, but it's a wide range of services and subcontracting needs in our water and wastewater construction work, in our building operations and facilities work, our power plants and electrical work, and just general construction work. So we've got a lot of work teed up, a lot of capital projects, a lot of maintenance projects, and as I mentioned, available for this specific program would be a minimum of the $17+ million, 25% of the spend in the identified categories that you'll hear about. So take advantage of this opportunity, ask questions. You have a remarkable team headed up by Rita Scott, who is the manager of Jacksonville Small and Emerging Business Program. So I said that, specifically to understand our commitment. Rita's job is to make this program successful, and this program is successful if we make you successful. So we're here to serve you. We're here to answer questions. We're here to help you through this process that can be at times seem overwhelming and difficult and challenging, but we're here to help you through it step by step to be successful. Again, so we can help you grow. You can help us grow. We both can help our community grow into the future. So again, thank you very much for participating today. Enjoy the rest of the summit. Feel free and really ask all of your questions today. Get to follow-up contact with the team that's supportive of you, and you'll be introduced to them as you go through the morning too, and get the contact information. Feel free to follow up and get more information and help yourself be successful. With that, I want to thank you very much. I'm going to turn it back to you, and I'll just share with the team. I stepped out of a board meeting. That's how important I felt this was, and our board felt this was, just to welcome you and encourage you to participate in a big way at JEA. So I'm going to get back to work, to my job, and you guys go on and learn, and look forward to talking to you in the future. Have a successful meeting and a successful year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. All right, next up, and I think I skipped over the agenda. So Lynn, if you could take us back to the agenda, I just want to walk us through that real quick, just to give everybody an overview of what we're going to do today. All right, so we've had the welcome and the meeting protocols and the opening remarks from Paul McElroy, and we're going to have a JSEB spotlight. We're going to talk about some of the fiscal year 21 upcoming opportunities. We're going to have 2 breakout sessions so that we can network with our facilities group as well as our water wastewater. We have 2 panel discussions lined up for you that I think you're really going to enjoy. And the way that's going to work is I'm going to divide the participants up into 2 groups. So you'll be placed in room A or room B. And for room A, for the first session, it's going to be facilities. Room B will be the water wastewater group. And then for session 2, we will actually switch the panels, and the water wastewater will actually be in room A, and facilities will be placed in room B. And then in between the sessions, I'm going to talk about what's new and up and coming for fiscal year 21, and then we'll close it out. All right, so moving on, we're going to talk about our JSEB Spotlight, and presenting that for us today is Ms. Jennifer Backmeister. She's from the Facilities Work Group. Jennifer?
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, coming through loud and clear.
Thank you very much. I am actually actively working on a project issue, so if you hear my phone go off, please excuse that. I'm going to ignore it during my presentation, but I have had folks looking for me all morning today, of course, because there's other things to do. So Welcome everybody to the Procurement Summit today. I'm here to present information about one of our JSEB contractors that we've had some great success with. We'll talk about some of the projects this company's completed and a little bit of information about what our work group does and how that works with the JSEB program. So Lynn, next slide, please. I am part of the Facilities Capital Work Group. We are responsible for managing all of the construction projects that involve capital funds, generally on existing buildings. Our work group does not do things like build new process. We don't build wastewater treatment plants. We don't build substations. We will go into substations and work on the existing structure, building structure that is there though. So a fine bit of definition there for you. We work closely with our operations and maintenance group to make sure that we are maintaining all of our facilities, and we work with our end users, the people who actually occupy our facilities, to make sure that they're getting what they need out of their work environment. So our planning includes looking forward as far out as 5 years to schedule work to make sure that roofs are being replaced and restrooms are being maintained, and if there are capital construction needs coming up, that we can plan for those and budget for those in a timely manner to make sure that our work starts and finishes on time. And then our end users also have a lot of input at the beginning of the planning sessions to make sure that what we're going to build is conducive to what they're trying to achieve, that it supports their operation. And that's primarily our role in this. We also serve basically as the on-site project rep or the owner's representative, if you're familiar with that term in construction. And there's 4 of us in the work group. There's myself, and we've got the names of everybody at the very end of this show. And we are responsible for all of the capital facilities work that happens. Next slide, Lynn. And our contractor spotlight today is the Heron Group, LLC. The owner, Mark Heron, he is on the call today. I've told him he's not allowed to correct me though, so hopefully I've got all the information that we're going to share correct. He has completed 5 JEA projects to date with us. I want to say he broke down the Blacksford water treatment plant control room. It was actually a very large room that went through some changes right after the Blacksford building was built. He did the upgrades for us out at SOC, which is the dispatch room and restroom upgrades. And then he's completed 3 different restroom upgrades at what we call remote locations. Those would be either at substations or non-manned plant sites. A lot of our remote locations have a structure that doesn't house somebody full-time, but we do provide a restroom there. Some of these restrooms have not literally been updated since the 60s or 70s. So we were in the middle of a process. We do anywhere from 5 to 8 of those projects a year, and they are scheduled, and they go out for competitive bid as well. So Mark has won 3 of those and done just a great job for us. So next slide, please, Lynn. The Blacksford control room is one of the more recent projects. You see the pictures here. Beforehand, you're standing at the end of the room, and as you can see, it's a long rectangular room, and in the after picture, there's a wall right there after that window. This is a brand new building. The user actually came to us shortly after the building was put into use and said this room was not functional for them. It wasn't working the way they expected it to. They needed some meeting space. As you can see where their table is in the before section, that was separate from their dispatch and control area, which depending on the resolution on your screen, you might be able to see folks sitting at the end of the room. So those people were trying to get work done while other people were trying to have meetings. We worked with the architect for the project, and they came up with the design plan for this. And Mark was chosen to go ahead and go out and erect that wall that you saw in the middle of the room. But there was more to it than that. We had some HVAC issues, obviously, to deal with when you break a room in half. They rearranged some of that countertop that you see. I'm trying to remember. If you'd go to the next slide, please, Lynn. I think we've got 2 more pictures of the same project. You can see there, and this is the same shot of the before. It's from the other end of the room looking back towards that conference table. You can see what a a large space this was, but really not supportive of what they were trying to accomplish between work areas and meeting rooms. You see in the after picture, there's a nice wall there and a piece of countertop. Heron was actually able to creatively take some of that countertop and the base cabinets, and we reinstalled it in another portion of the building. So we got some value added for that we were really, really thankful for on that. The users are very happy with this project. This is one of our examples of how sometimes we get into projects that, even though this is a process location, this is considered an administrative function. And that's when they would call facilities in to help them resolve any of their building related issues on this one. We had some challenges on this project because of COVID. We were trying to get this done. And for those of you who have been working with JEA, you know, most of our operations centers are heavily restricted at this point to protect our operators from the virus because they are extremely essential personnel to our business. So we had some starts and stops and some delays on this, but ultimately the project was finished successfully and everybody out there is real happy with it. And I think if you went out there today and didn't know this story, you probably would never know that those were actually, the two separate rooms are actually one large continuous room. So that's Blacksford Control Room. Lynn, next slide, please. And as I mentioned, we do a lot of remote restroom upgrades. We started this project, I'm going to say 3 years ago. We had several independent users come to us and complain about the condition of the facilities. And again, these are remote locations. They are not in buildings that are routinely occupied all day, but they are locations that we provide this facility to the operators and to our workforce, because when they're out all day in the truck, it's not always necessarily convenient either to come back to a JA manned facility or even to a gas station. Some of these are really out in the middle where there's not a lot of other things going on. So this is a before and after picture. The before picture, you'll see that lovely lime greenish colored tile, the ceramic floor was badly stained. The fixtures in this one, although they look pretty good in the before picture, most of them were extremely worn. I want to say in this particular location, the sink, the water didn't come out of it. It had like a trickle. The guys were using a garden hose outside the building to actually wash their hands off or provide large amounts of water to themselves. And the after picture shows the kind of facility that we're providing for them. You'll see it's clean, it's bright. The fixtures are new. Now this one, the mirror is not hung up in it because it was a progress photo, but it does get a mirror over the sink. You can't see in the first picture because of the angle. We do put all new toilet paper and paper towel dispensers in. Again, they got all new fixtures. There is new coatings on the walls and the floor for cleanliness and to make it easier to clean going forward. And generally, these kind of projects are facilities bread and butter. They strongly are driven by the folks who use these facilities, and we'll get contacted, facilities get contacted and asked to do these sorts of things. They tend to be quick turnaround projects from the time that they're bid. Once you get the purchase order, if you can get this job done in a week, get it done in a week. We pretty much want you to work as quickly as you can and as best as you can, and to get these back into service, obviously, because they are important to our users on that one. So Heron has done 3 of these for us in the last year. This is one of them. One of them that I did not have after pictures for when we first went to visit the restroom, it actually had pink tile with black trim, which I believe most of you will recognize, dates from the 50s. And it was original construction. So we had a good time talking about what might have occurred over the years in that particular facility, and which designer decided pink and black was an appropriate restroom in a water treatment plant. But that one is now a lovely shade of beige with all new facilities in it as well. So Lynn, could I get the next slide, please? This is another one of our remote restroom upgrades. You can probably tell from that second picture on the right there. This is at a substation. And again, these are locations that are not manned. The guys stop by to use these restrooms because they're convenient. We hope that they're clean and functional. This is the after picture. The before picture was quite frightening, and I'm not sure you would recognize it as a restroom. We go in and we put down an epoxy floor system. We upgrade the pan on the walls. As you can tell, there's all new fixtures in there, all new toilet paper, and this location has a hand dryer instead of the paper products, which allows us to keep those restrooms cleaner and more serviceable. But what you'll find on this particular job, in the picture on the right-hand side is a picture of the concrete cutting company. This particular location did not have any ventilation in it, any fan or anything. So we went back and we added one. So as the contractor for this project, or for any of the projects that we do, we would expect that you would have the resources and the ability to subcontract out some of this work. We certainly don't expect you as a contractor to own your own piece of equipment that will cut an 8 or 10 inch hole through a brick and concrete block wall, as you can see what's going on there. But that is one of the resources we would expect our JSEB contractors to bring to the job site. So this would be a turnkey. We would hand you basically the key to the front door and the scope of work, and you would be responsible for sourcing the plumbing fixtures and hiring the subcontractors for scopes of work that you are not personally able to complete with your own forces. And that's perfectly acceptable on any of these projects. But that was a fun job. I was there that day watching them cut a hole. And it is an 8-inch block wall with a facade of brick over it. And it was amazing to watch that cutter go through that wall. So that's another one of Heron's successfully completed projects. The guys in the field, again, they don't say a lot when they're happy, but they definitely let us know when they're unhappy. So since this one has been fixed, we haven't heard a word from them, which we take as a high compliment. So next slide, please, Lynn. And this is the SOC dispatch break room upgrades. SOC is one of our nerve centers out off of Ramona Boulevard. There is a large secure area in the middle of the building where our dispatchers sit for our electric system. And there's an area behind their dispatch area that contains this large break room that you can see right there. They each have personal lockers in there too, for both food items as well as other personal items. There are 2 restrooms in the same general vicinity. There is a fairly large kitchen area. It's got a stove and a pair of refrigerators. There's a large ice machine. I did not have a good shot of that countertop area. Mark came in on this project, and it was one that was on a deadline. This is one of our critical facilities. Obviously, the building and the dispatch desks are manned 24/7. There is always people in this building. It's always difficult to get work done because there's always somebody there. There are no down times that you can schedule work. In this case, we went in, we replaced all of the countertops and cabinetry. We removed all of the wallpaper from the walls and painted it. We replaced all of the flooring. The kitchen work was all completely redone. And then the 2 restrooms were basically what we called refreshed. We replaced only the fixtures that absolutely need to be fixed. The tile on the walls and the floor was steam cleaned and regrouted and resealed. We upgraded fixtures such as mirrors and light fixtures to make it cleaner and modern and functional in places, especially where items don't work. The challenge on this job was because we started on this project late in the year, we actually had to shut this job down for a period of time because of the hurricane. We had to ask Mark to go ahead and safe off all of his work. We put some protective covering on the countertops in that kitchen area because even though the appliances, the stove and the sink and those items were not yet connected or functional, they absolutely had to have access to this space during the storm recovery to bring in the meals for the dispatchers. It served as a rally point for some of our overhead crews, so they also received meals and additional supplies and information at this location. So Mark did a great job. He got it cleaned up and buttoned down before the storm came, basically took himself to the house and handled his own business. We were able to use the area for, I want to say it was 5 or 6 days to deploy our recovery teams from. And then once we completed that, we got Mark back in there and finished up the job. He did a great job. He sourced some excellent countertop material for us that was an improvement for what we had specified for the job without additional cost, that made a lot of folks in that work area real happy because it looks really, really great. The key takeaway on this one is that especially as a contractor for facilities, you need to be able to be a little bit flexible and be on your toes, be ready. It is not unusual for changes like this to happen on a job. Now, granted, we try not to tear up major service centers during hurricane season for this exact reason, but it happens sometimes. And you need to be ready to adapt to that situation. And not to say that we don't compensate, we do. Obviously, mobilizing and remobilizing is not free. But we want you to be ready and thinking about those things when the job starts so that we can work together as a great team, not only to provide you as the contractor what you need to successfully complete the job, but also so that our end users, our building occupants, can get their mission done too, even when that mission changes in the middle of a project. So this was a good project. We had a lot of fun with this one, trying to guess when that storm was coming in, and working around the weather is always a challenge. So great job, Mark. We still talk about this project. So can I get the next slide, please, Lynn? So as I mentioned earlier, my work group is basically 5 people. We have an associate manager. His name is Matt Poteet, and I understand that we are recording this and saving this slideshow. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so you'll don't feel like you got to grab a pencil and scribble this down. You'll have access to this later. William Braden is one of our project administrators. He primarily does some of the large remodels and deals with a lot of our horizontal work, driveways, asphalt paving. He's our generator expert. Lawrence Castella is another project administrator, handles a lot of roofing projects and our restroom remodels, smaller ones like that. Greg Griffin is our newest member of the team. He recently did the project at Blacksford, and he also was the project administrator for a new building out at Buckman, which is their admin building for the wastewater plant there. And then obviously myself, I handle the large remodels such as Westside Service Center, as well as some of those bathroom projects and pretty much anything else that gets thrown our way. We are always actively looking for JSEB contractors who can complete our work. If you have something that you're particularly good at, if you are looking for work in a particular time frame, I encourage you to email us and let us know about your availability or your skill set. Our smaller jobs, sometimes it happens that we say, hey, I've got to get this done. Who do I have? And if we know that you're out there and you're willing to work, we can put you on our list on that. And that is not how most of our work goes. You can look to procurement to see those announcements for work for that, but a large portion of our work we dedicate to our JSEB contractors. And I didn't see the whole list, but if we have any of the architects or engineers on the line that are JSEBs as well, we do prefer to hire JSEBs for our architects and engineering firms as well, to create plans and drawings in situations where we do need these. Some of the smaller projects, it's literally a walkthrough and here's what we need to do. But obviously anything of any complexity, we have bid documents for. So I wanted to leave a minute or two at the end, if it's okay with Rita, if anybody had any questions, or are we holding questions to the very, very end?
No, if there are any questions, feel
Okay.
free to either raise your hand at this point or type it in the chat.
And I don't have my chat open. So
I don't see any hands raised at this
That's good.
time.
Well, I hope I covered anything. If you think of something later, I'll be on the call for the entire session. If you think of anything later, you can go ahead and chat box me. I have mine open. And I want to thank Rita for this too. This has always been a great effort for us. We put a lot of effort into keeping our JSEB contractors busy. So if we know you're there, we can certainly get the work to you and keep everybody busy and moving forward on this one. And Rita, was there anything I needed to cover that I didn't?
Great job, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thanks, Rita. Thank you, Lynn, too, for the slide work.
We have a question from Smitty to everyone in the chat box. The question is, what about opportunities that are not construction related?
I think that's a good Rita question.
that are not construction related. Well, actually, the next segment, we're about to talk about our upcoming opportunities. And we're going to talk about the different areas within procurement. So we're actually going to get into that in just a minute, Smitty. So if you could hold tight, I think we're going to provide a little insight on that for you. Okay. All right. Any other questions out there, Rochelle?
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right. Next slide, please, Lynn. And I'd just like to say thanks to the hearing group. You guys are doing an awesome job. We appreciate all the hard work. So at this time, I'd like to transition into our fiscal year upcoming opportunities. And that's going to be presented by myself as well as Joe Perez. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So before we get into the opportunities, I would like to kind of reflect on where we currently are with today's JSEB program. JEA has participated in the JSEB program since 2004. The city ordinance that governs the JSEB program requires city agencies to allocate 18 to 20% of their available spend each year. To assist in tracking our actual JSEB spend, I developed a scorecard. And you see a couple of the graphics on the screen. For fiscal year 20, our available spend is $67 million. When we say available spend, this is the area of opportunity where we can have JSEB participation. Each year, we strive to get 20% of our available spend to our JSEB vendors. However, this year's goal is 25%. Our target JSEB goal is to achieve $17 million. And as of August of this year, we have achieved 16.5 million, or 97% of the actual goal. We're very close to meeting and exceeding the goal this year. So I'm excited about that. You'll note on the screen that the amount is broken down by each quarter. The JSEB metric is also tracked on our corporate metrics dashboard and is presented to our board members on a quarterly basis. We're currently working with 90 JSEB vendors, of which 45 are prime vendors, which accounts for approximately 45% of the overall spend. The chart on the right shows our goal versus actual spend over the past 4.5 years. You will note each year we have increased the overall JSEB spend goal. Next slide, please. Another metric we track is the number of new JSEB vendors we're doing business with. We compare our current JSEB list to the last fiscal year and note any new vendors. As of third quarter, we have 9 new JSEB vendors. They're listed on the right. The type of work that they're performing is noted on the left. They're providing a wide variety of services such as safety consultant, fleet tire maintenance and repair services, hauling services, and fence services. We always look for opportunities to grow the JSEB program and expand the program by doing business with as many JSEBs as we can. Next slide, please. Another metric I track are the contracts awarded to JSEBs. As of third quarter, $16 million was awarded to our JSEB vendors, of which 6 JSEB vendors were awarded prime contracts. I hear that all the time from my JSEBs that, they want to be prime vendors. And this year alone, we've awarded 6. The contracts typically range from about 1 to 5 years. And, we're always looking for ways to infuse our JSEBs with these prime opportunities. Now, let's shift gears and focus on the opportunities that are coming up for fiscal year 21. I'll now transition over to Joe Perez, the category manager for water, wastewater, who will discuss all the categories and their respective upcoming opportunities. Handing it over to you, Joe. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Rita. Just want to make a quick mic check, make sure everybody can hear me okay.
Coming through loud and clear.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. So good morning, everybody. My name is Joe Perez. I'm one of 5 procurement category managers here at JEA. As procurement managers, our role is to manage the available spend opportunities in our respective areas. We're responsible for the advertisement of solicitations and awarding on the contracts for goods and services across the various business segments within JEA. As you can see here, you can see our 5 major categories that we manage. Professional services, facilities, HR and finance, operations support, which includes fleet, inventory, and investment recovery, technology services and customer service, energy and compliance, and water, wastewater. Water and wastewater happens to be my specific category. So this is what we have in terms of planned spend for the upcoming fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs from beginning of October until the end of September of the following year. So this gives you sort of a sense of where the opportunities are at a very high level. In the column where you see JSEB opportunities, you see yes and NA. And that this means that we have had historically more opportunities on the professional services and the water, wastewater side. Doesn't mean that we don't have opportunities on the other categories. It's just that in our experience, they've been limited in terms of what JSEB can do. But nonetheless, we will list those opportunities for you so that you can see what JEA typically advertises. One more thing that I'd like to say is that typically our opportunities fall within 2 major types. They're either continuing services contracts. These are services that are needed on a regular basis, or capital projects, which are typically one-time purchase of equipment or one-time use of engineering services and construction services for large infrastructure projects. Next slide, please. Okay, so to start, here's the list of opportunities that we have planned on the professional services side. On professional services, you can see by some of these descriptions what we're talking about, and this is typically more the facilities maintenance type work. You know, some examples listed here are heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. It would be services and installation, roofing services, janitorial services. That's also a big one. Small construction jobs, and you know, you think about all the facilities that JEA has all over our county and even in neighboring counties. Those facilities need regular maintenance just to keep them in operation. So the opportunities that you see here are the ones that are planned. Some of these contracts will be renewed, and some of the other ones will be rebid. But this gives you a good sense of what we have coming up. And with that, we can go to the next slide. And this is more now on the capital side of professional services. This would typically be new construction projects. And of course, JSEBs can participate whether they are prime or subs. And these are all listed, and you can see, you know, out to several fiscal years for capital projects that JEA has planned. This particular category is headed by our procurement manager, Chrissy Nunciato, and Chrissy will be available in her own breakout session to discuss in detail some of these opportunities. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is our operations support. This is our fleet category. In fleet, what we typically see is work having to do with vehicle maintenance, and actually vehicle purchases too. But you'll see opportunities in maintenance and repair, and these are our utility trucks, our bucket trucks, and some of the services that we require on these include fueling, your typical maintenance and repair, and towing. And fleet also includes not just the light duty vehicles and heavy duty, but also things like trailers and forklifts as well. So the purchase and maintenance of those would be something that we would welcome participation from any JSEB that can do the work. By the way, this particular category is headed by our category manager, Kenny Pearson. So everything that you see here is what he has planned for the coming year. Next slide, please. Kenny also manages the inventory side of our business from the procurement side. And here we have a number of opportunities. We have typically the type of things that you would expect to find in our inventory, things like circuit breakers for the electric side. It could also include transformers, transformer parts and accessories. For the water side, you would see things like water meters, pipes, valves, and fittings. That's more for the water side of the business. And by the way, some of these components do have to meet specific technical requirements with code standards here at JEA. So if you intend to provide these type of materials, please familiarize yourself with the standards for these types of equipment. You can also request to be included in these standards if you meet the requirements. And those are actually listed on our JEA.com website, which you can always go and check out. Next slide, please. Okay, so our next category is the technology services and customer service category. And what you're seeing here is a list of continuing service contracts that are either up for renewal or are planned to be bid out. On the technical services and customer services side, this particular category is managed by Nathan Woyak. He's a procurement manager for this particular category. This normally covers our needs for hardware, software, IT services, as well as professional services and consulting opportunities to help with our customer service. On continuing services, what you have here is everything that's up for renewal or for bid for the next coming fiscal year. Just a note, when it comes to software, once we implement a specific type of software, we're sort of locked into that type of software. So it's useful that you guys know that we use a lot of Oracle products and Citrix products. So any experience in that area would certainly be useful as a provider of these services. Next slide. So this is now the capital side. We have a couple of slides on this. There's a number of projects here. And on capital, what this typically includes are things like hardware and software for all aspects of the business of JEA. So that's not only water and electric, but also areas of the business like security, human resources, finance, and even my own group, procurement. We have software needs. So these types of projects are posted regularly on our website, jea.com. So I encourage you guys to also check that out. If you can go to the next slide, I think what we have in the next slide is a continuation of all the capital projects for tech services and customer services. So I know there's a lot here, and some of it myself, I'm having a hard time reading it, but we will have this presentation available at the end of the summit so that you guys can refer to it if you want more detail on these. Next slide, please. Okay, so next, this slide is for energy and compliance. The energy and compliance category is led by Lisa Pleasant, one of our procurement category managers. And this is what the group has in terms of continuing contracts that either are up for renewal or are planned to be bid out. On the electric systems group, the majority of the opportunities are in areas that are technically very specialized. This includes maintenance and repair of combustion turbines, transformers. This also includes things like designing and manufacturing of relay and control panels. Just to mention a few examples, you'll see here, in addition to the electric, we also have some security and compliance opportunities like access control systems, automatic gates and doors, the installation and repair of those. So those are just a sampling of those opportunities. I'm seeing some questions coming through. Let me see if I can answer. Once the opportunity is awarded, how would the JSEB find out who was a successful bidder? This is more of a procurement side question. Whenever we award a contract that's announced in our weekly publicly held awards committee meeting, the awards committee publishes the meeting minutes for every award meeting. So those are posted on JEA.com. I'm not exactly sure how to navigate to that specific area, but if you were to go to JEA.com and go to procurement, you can see all of the meetings that we've held on the awards committee, and you'll see all the projects that have been awarded and to which company they've been awarded. Even if you cannot find it, you can always submit a public records request for anything that you're interested in learning. If you are aware of a contract or a project that was awarded, you can simply submit a records request and ask who the vendor was. So that's one way you can find that out. And somebody else wanted to know the answer to those questions. So hopefully that addresses that question. Okay. Next slide on this. Okay, so these are the capital projects on the energy side. And as you can see, this is typically construction work on our electric stations and generating stations and substations. So hopefully by the descriptions, you can get a sense of what that entails. These are typically large projects, and as I mentioned, they're very specific in terms of the skill set that is needed because you're dealing with combustion turbines, you're dealing with transformers, substations, and distribution. So certainly if you have that skill set, whether as a prime or sub, you can participate in these opportunities. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the next slide, I have the water and wastewater. This happens to be my category. My team manages these types of solicitations. On the continuing services side, I chose to list this one particular project that's up for bid, and this is for engineering services for pipeline projects. And this one, we typically have good participation from the engineering community, as well as their enrolling of JSEB participants to meet the JSEB requirement on these. This one is for pipeline projects for what we call large pipelines, which is over 24 inches. I chose to list this one in particular because it's coming up really soon. We expect to advertise it within the next few weeks. And chose not to list anything that where we made up our mind to renew, so as to just keep your focus on the things that are actually new opportunities. Let me pause a moment. I see some questions coming through. Okay, looks like Rochelle is answering those, so thank you, Rochelle, for that. In terms of public records request.
I posted.
All right. Yes, Rochelle.
Apologies, I'm sorry. I just wanted everybody to know I posted a link to the procurement page, and on that page is where you can find all of the meeting agendas, minutes, anything that you might be looking for.
Thank you, Rochelle. Appreciate it. We can go to the next slide.
Joe, we have one
All right.
question. I'm sorry.
Sure,
There's a
go ahead.
question. Can you explain how to choose the suppliers for the, can you explain how you choose the suppliers for the continuing contracts?
Okay, so the details on how the suppliers are chosen are listed on the actual solicitation. Typically, it would be one of two types of solicitations. If it's engineering, those we choose based on qualifications. So we would list in the technical specification alongside of the solicitation what's the work that's actually required, be a very detailed scope of work. Because of Florida statutes, we have to advertise that on the basis of qualifications. So companies would first submit their experience, resumes of key personnel. And once we look at that, we evaluate it, we assign scores. Typically, a company would be chosen, could be one, could be multiple. And then we enter into negotiations with these companies. For the areas that are more transactional, let's say it's a purchase of equipment, or if it's a specific construction project, then those are chosen on the basis of lowest price. So on these, JSEBs can participate as primes, or if they are participating as subs, then the prime basically submits their proposal, their pricing, and they would list the JSEB subcontractor that they've chosen for that project. So that's just overall how that's chosen. Okay. So again, going back to this, on the capital projects, what you see here is a good sampling of everything that we have planned coming up for construction. And this is not an all-inclusive list. My group supports the engineering and construction group in the water wastewater, but we also support the operations and maintenance. So we have a bit better visibility for the engineering and construction group. They, plan out their various projects on a really tight timeline, and we work very closely with them just because the advertisement of these projects has to occur before certainly any construction could happen. So what you're looking at is what the vision that we have so far of the next coming fiscal year for engineering, for construction projects, actually engineering and construction for the water wastewater group. Okay, I'm just making sure that I cover everything. Can you go to the next slide? Just making sure that I've covered everything for water, wastewater. Okay, so before we jump into this, I just want to make a few statements specific to the water and wastewater. So the work in that area, which happens to have a good participation level with JSEBs, includes typically the installation of either new water mains or reclaimed water mains. So this is pipeline projects. It also includes plant work, and plant work means both water, just water treatment plants, as well as wastewater treatment plants. So these are always coming up. There's always opportunities in these areas, and we've historically seen good participation from JSEBs. And in fact, in some of these, we do have very specific goals, be anywhere between 5 to 10%, maybe even more, depending on the project, for JSEB participation. So just to give you an example of the type of opportunities there, you'll see things like land surveying, mapping, geotechnical services for things like soil analysis. We have opportunities on inspection, construction management, and just general civil engineering and construction services. And even with this, within these projects, you will have opportunities that are more specific in the trades, like electrical, piping, plumbing, controls. We also have sod installation, sod maintenance, pavement restoration. We're always cutting into the ground, so there's always the need to restore that work once the project is completed. So hopefully that gives you a good sense of all the opportunities that are there. Like I said, my group manages specific water, wastewater. Hope I did a good job in terms of giving you an overview of everything that JA has to offer. Okay, so I'm seeing some questions. Okay, so thank you for answering that. Yes, Kenny Pearson is the manager for Fleet. And if you, at the end, you still have questions about who you should contact, you can always reach out to me or Rita, and we can connect you with the right folks within the business.
Joey,
so Rita, that's
one other question.
Go ahead. Sure.
Must a smaller contractor on the continuing projects need to have the key personnel already on staff as an employee when they apply, or can they show strong commitment of the staff and on the equipment of a small contractor as a prime? Do they need to have the equipment for your inspection?
Okay, so depends if you're bidding as a prime, you would be expected to show that you have that capability, and in fact, you'd be measured on those personnel and the experience. If you're a sub, the prime may have different requirements. We don't dictate those, other than if you're using the JSEB, we want to know who that JSEB is. I guess that's something that we can address on the breakout session. We do have some prime companies participating in our panel, so they can give you more information in that regard. But certainly, what we would like to see, not only from our primes but also from our subs, is some good experience. These are infrastructure projects that are essential to our community. So we want you, to have some similar type projects under your belt if you're participating, that would benefit you and would benefit JEA. If you want to be more specific in terms of the type of experience that will be expected, I would recommend that we could we discuss that in the breakout session.
All right, thanks, Joe.
Okay.
All right, guys, well, we are ready to transition over into our breakout session. So this is the session 1. And for this session, we have the facilities group in room A and the water wastewater panel in room B. And those panels consist of, for facilities, from procurement, we have Chrissy Nunziato, the procurement category manager, Elaine Selders, the senior procurement agent. From facilities, we have Melanie Newton-Green, the associate manager of facilities asset support services. And the prime vendor that's going to be in there is Freedom Landscaping. The owner is Zaki Furkan. On the water wastewater panel, we have Joe Perez, the procurement category manager, Dan Crook, senior procurement agent. From the water wastewater project manager side, we have Maria Vectorner. And the 2 primes we have in there are Jacobs, Janelle Pemberton. She's the water group leader. And then we also have Petticoat Schmidt, civil contractors. We have Lauren Atwell, the chief operating officer. So guys, I think you're gonna have some good discussions in these groups. And as I mentioned earlier, I have divided the participants equally into the rooms. So you'll be placed in those rooms for the first session, and then you'll have the opportunity to talk with the other panel during the second session. Next slide, please, Lynn. We've allotted 30 minutes for these sessions, and at the end of the 30 minutes, you're gonna see a screen that looks similar to this. You'll get a 60-second warning that everybody's being brought back into the general session. So just wanna give you a heads up. When you see that, you have 60 seconds and everybody will transition back into this main session. I'll go over some things that's gonna be happening next fiscal year, and then we'll go to the next breakout session, okay? So stand by. I'm going to put us in our breakout rooms. So enjoy your panel discussions. Be sure to address questions and any concerns that you have in those respective sessions. Uh-oh, Zaki, are you? Let me make sure you're in a session.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. We look forward to a great discussion. We'll allow time to ask questions at the end. Rita did introduce everybody who would be in the different rooms, but I'll just go over it quickly again so everyone has an idea of who is in our breakout session. So my name is Chrissy Nunziato. I am the Professional Services Procurement Category Manager for JEA. And I also have with us today Melanie Newton-Green. She is the Associate Manager in Facilities. Elaine Selders, Senior Purchasing Agent for Professional Services. And we're really happy to welcome Zaki Furkan, who is the owner of Freedom Landscape and Lawn Maintenance. So today, what we'll be doing is going over some talking points, specific qualities and skill sets we look for in a JSEB, and that's from the perspective of the product manager, buyer, and prime vendor. Upcoming opportunities, that we have, and Melanie will address.
I also would like to introduce our panelists. So I'll introduce them first, and then I'll ask them to just give a little bit of, of information about what they do, how they've engaged with JSEBs before. We will try to anticipate your questions and trying to give you some of that information. After everybody gets a chance to talk, then we can open it up for everybody to start asking questions. So first, I want to introduce, again, Dan Crook. He's my senior purchasing agent for water, wastewater. Dan, you don't have to go yet. I'll come back to you, just doing introductions for now. We also have Maria Betancourt. Maria is a professional engineer in our water, wastewater group, specifically in the project engineering and construction. So Maria has agreed to participate in this discussion. Thank you, Maria. As a project manager, Maria will have quite a bit of insight into how to work with JEA. We will also have Janelle Pemberton. Janelle Pemberton is a professional engineer with Jacobs. Jacobs is one of our firms that we use on a regular basis for engineering of either plant work, wells, and just sort of overall working with our water and wastewater group. And I also have invited Petticoat Schmidt, represented by Lauren Otwell, Chief Operating Officer. And Petticoat happens to be one of our construction firms that we use on a regular basis at JEA. So Lauren, thank you for joining us. So having introduced our panel, I would like to say a few things. First of all, just giving you an overall view of how we typically work with JSEBs. As you guys know, you could, as a JSEB, participate either as a prime, you yourself and your company can bid in our solicitations with JEA on any of the projects, for which you are qualified and meet the minimum requirements. Just as a tip, many of these projects do require vendors to become approved before you can bid. And we have a couple of ways you can get sort of pre-approved. One way is to become part of our qualified proposers list. And this is typically for the roles of architectural services, land surveying, water and wastewater treatment, work in plants or pump stations, remediation, engineering and permitting. So this QPL, the Qualified Proposers List, it's something that we maintain. You can also find it in our JE.com website, just so you can go and see who is already listed there, whether you want to become included on this list, or if you're trying to connect with the companies that are already in this list and you want to be a sub for, that's a resource there. We also have a responsible bidders list, and we also keep that on our website. You'll see that to be included in that, you just have to have specific construction experience on some of the categories that you'll see there. And it's not just water, wastewater, there's opportunities in communications, electric, and general construction work. as well as some of our typical water and wastewater categories. What you'll see there is that we typically ask for basic business information. This is, your contractor's license information and some prior projects you have performed that can be used as reference. So with that, I'd like to just go and have our panel members talk a little bit. And if, as I call you out, if you can mention some of the specific qualities or skill sets that you're looking for in a JSEB from the perspective of, either as a project manager or as a buyer, as a prime vendor. If you can, highlight in your experience any success stories you've had with JSEBs, and any tips you can offer from your perspective for the JSEB companies that are participating in this call. So with that, let me then, if I can, let me start with you. And obviously your perspective is from a buyer. So if you can talk a little bit about, the kind of things that we look for in procurement, and think of JSEBs that, that are primarily prime. If they're working directly with us, they're primes. But also in your experience, what kind of things you would recommend as they work as subs as well?
Well, first, when you're submitting a proposal, whether it be a bid package or a proposal if it's being evaluated, I would just be sure to read through what we want very carefully, because a lot of times we get incomplete packages from companies, and that can be a problem for the evaluated processes, which is what I primarily handle for JA's Water Wastewater Group. We list out evaluation criteria very specifically, and we like it in that order. And there's usually limits as to pages and resumes and things like that. And so it makes it very easy if you just go down through and say, this is yes, I have this, and this. And that makes it very easy for us to grade, as well as including all the proper forms that we either include in the solicitation or have on ja.com that we're requesting. We do review each solicitation for a JSEB goal or evaluation criteria, and we encourage JSEBs to submit as primes as well. And when you're working with JA, I'll leave that over to a couple of project managers that we have, but it's just like any other project. Just do the job as best you can. I'm not sure if I'm missing something that you wanted me to talk about. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I mean, if we have questions, we can address those. But
yeah.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. So next, Maria, I was hoping you could give us your perspective as a project manager. Having managed a number of water wastewater projects for JEA and dealing with companies both as prime and subs, with specific focus to the JSEBs that are participating here. Again, Maria, it's your opportunity to share your experience and knowledge with the companies that are considering participating with JEA. So if you can go.
Okay. Okay. So from my perspective, I'm a project manager for the water wastewater group, and I do oversee like the design and construction of our pipeline projects, water, wastewater, reclaimed water, and so we work with JSEBs in the engineering side and in the construction side. So what I see most importantly is the communication in between the primes and the JSEB companies. When there's good communication, then we make sure that we get the proposals on time, and we get the information that we request, and we make sure that everyone is on the same page. We also like the JSEB very familiar with the water wastewater standards and guidelines, just to be able to work with us in the primes, and just to kind of fill out all the skills that are needed, or labor or experience that's needed for like working.
C and ES consultants, Stephen Davis, Clayton Company, Annie Clayton, Complete Services, and Justin Merritt. And that's just a few. Typically, when we pursue a project or when there's an RFP out, that's when we start partnering with our JSEBs to see, what component of the scope we can designate to them. And a lot of times in the work that we do, which I have in the background, an aerial photo of the Blacksford plant in construction. So you can see an example of the type of work we would support JA with. So you can see, there's site civil work, there's a road. So sometimes for our JSEBs, we might sub out MOT. They might capture the site civil component of the plant. Or maintenance of traffic if it's a pipeline project and we're going through a significant amount of right away, we will work with our JSEBs to carve out the MOT component to them. We also would utilize JSEBs for construction management services. Specifically, I know Stephen Davis with CNES, they supported us on a few pipeline projects. With Annie Clayton, with Clayton Company, they're helping us with construction management services on a new project, which would be the Greenland WRF. So those are just some examples of some of the work that we do. And as far as tips, if you're new, if you have not done business with Jacobs, it typically takes about a week or two to get in our system. The process is a little lengthy because it takes about a couple of days to get our health and safety forms filled out. But we have folks who can help you, not only the representative Jacobs project manager who's working with you to help you with the forms, but we have some subcontracts professionals to help guide you through. So I would say be patient, just ask questions when you need to. The process takes about a week. And a lot of it is the health and safety pre-qualifications. But once you're in, for this project, you're in our system. So it would not only count for being in our system for the projects that we do with JEA, but any projects in the city of Jacksonville that have JSEB requirements, because we also do work for JAXPort and other agencies in the city. That's
Okay.
it. Any questions?
Thank you, Janelle. I'm not seeing any questions yet, but feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand if you have any questions. With that, I'd like to go next to Mr. Lauren Atwell. He's the chime in and give us some of his perspective on how to work with a construction firm as a JSEB. Lauren?
Good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Petticoat Schmidt's a heavy civil contractor. We build life-changing infrastructure, very much like JA builds community. We support them in upgrading and building the water treatment plants, the wastewater treatment plants, doing the utility projects. And we also build roads and do site development work for JEA and other municipalities through North Florida. And we typically do self-perform our own dirt work and excavation and concrete and some of the mechanical and process equipment in those plants gets pretty complicated. So we do that, but we're always looking for experts to hire for things like architectural items, like painting and masonry and metal studs and drywall, roofing, landscaping, grassing, fencing, specialty items like well drilling and paving and striping, some environmental stuff, electrical, I&C. And then we for services like trucking and concrete cutting, cleaning and surveying and MOT, and then we purchase a lot of materials, and we can get those through JSEB companies too, like concrete, dirt, piping, valves, process equipment. And to be helpful to us is mainly about customer service. I mean, it's the same customer service that we like to give to JEA, and to help us provide that customer service and to make their project success. We need the same from our vendors and our support system and people that work for us. So besides looking at JEA's procurement website to find projects, there's two ways to get involved with us, and that would be to send us your contact information, and we'll put you we have a program called Pipeline, and we would send you invitations for the projects that we're bidding for JEA, along with Clay County and other municipalities. And you can check out we got a plan room on our website that tells you about the jobs we're bidding. And we typically, JEA gives us 30 days to bid a project. So it's a lot of work and a lot of stuff to gather and do takeoffs and quantify and price in that time frame. So it's really important that we get confirmations from our vendors that get on board early with us, and you can send us your scope of work and the details of what you're providing a few days ahead of the bid. And it's really important you go through the process of getting pre-approved by JEA so that you're on that QBL or that RBL. And then when it comes time to building the project and we're successful and get it, and then you're on our team, the timely execution of the contract documents and providing your insurance certificates, And again, we got people, our project managers and stuff will help you with that stuff. Project coordinators with the insurance certificates, and we can look at different limits of insurance based on the size and the risk of the work that you're doing with us or on that project. And then it's really important, JEA, it's important to them that we submit timely billing. So we need timely billing from the JSEB. And then having all your people set up with the safety orientation and safety leadership and the things that JA looks for on the job sites for drug testing programs and the PPE. And again, we got safety personnel and directors and managers that would be glad to help train some of your people and be part of that. And there's been some really good success stories that we love working with people like Complete Services Well Drilling. Their name's been mentioned 2 or 3 times. Bullard Fence, NDN Companies, Donald Hamilton, DJ Trucking. So it's all been great assets to us for JEA work and other work. So if you got any questions as we move on, please ask.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Appreciate all that good discussion. I'm just trying to address some of the questions that are coming in. Let me see if I can read a few of these. There's one from Amy who is getting into Jacob's subcontractor system by invitation only. How could relatively new JSEB firms who have never done business with Jacobs make their capabilities aware in Jacobs' system? Janelle, I see that you answer that. I don't know if you want to add something else to what you already responded.
Oops, is the question. So yeah, just send us your information. I know it's kind of hard now that we're, a lot of folks are still, working remotely, but, and just don't give up. Sometimes it might take a while to find the right project and the right fit. But, I'll leave my information with Joe. You could email me your company profile. We could set up, calls for meet and greet so that you can share your information and the type of services you provide. A lot of times the work that we do is very specific, and it's, it does require some specialty areas, architecture, engineering,
See, everybody's not back yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay, a few minutes.
Moved out of the break room, so thank you for your participation.
All right, as everyone is coming back, we'll let everybody get back into this main lobby. All right, well, hopefully everybody enjoyed the first session with the facilities and water wastewater groups. I'm going to briefly go over the what's new in fiscal year 21, and then we're going to quickly go into our second breakout session. Next slide, please. So for next fiscal year, there are some things that I wanted to do with the JSEBs. I sent out an email about a month ago to all of the certified JSEBs asking for you to provide me with a copy of your capability sheet. I want to design a web page on jea.com that houses all of your capability sheets. And I'm actually working with the with our team that maintains our website to develop a page specifically just for this purpose. So if you haven't had a chance to send me your capability statement, please do so. Sometime during fiscal year 21, we're going to roll that out, and I'll announce to everyone once the site goes live. As you can imagine, I've received several capability statements, and so I'm trying to work with the team to figure out the best way to optimize putting all of that information out there. But I thank you for those that have provided me with your capability statement. And again, if you haven't sent it to me, please send it to jsubprogram@jea.com. And it's just your capability statement that talks about what your business does and some of the things that you're capable of doing. Typically, it's a one-pager, it's a PDF file, and that's what we're looking to put out on our website. Another thing that I'm looking to do this year is to modify our JSEB form. One thing that I hear from a lot of our JSEBs is that they don't always know when a prime has included them in their bid proposals. So one of the things I wanted to change is to also have both the prime as well as the JSEB to sign the JSEB form that's required as support documentation when the prime submits their bid package, so that the JSEB is included in that process and they know when they're being included in the bid process. So I have to work with our legal team to make sure that you know, the forms are, from a legal perspective, in compliance. And once we get ready to roll that out, again, I'll put a communication out so that the JSEBs are aware that this change is forthcoming. The last thing I want to try to focus on for fiscal year 21 is a webinar for my prime vendors. Oftentimes, I have new prime vendors that are working with JSEBs and they're not entirely familiar with the process. And working with the JSEB, we're turning in reports on a monthly basis and just what all that entails. And so I've had a couple of prime vendors to reach out to me to actually request something of this nature. So I'm going to work on developing a workshop specifically for the primes so that we can get them up to speed with all of the expectations that we have when it comes to JSEB when they are onboarding them through their subcontracting process, and making sure that they're checking all of the boxes and meeting all of our expectations throughout the life of the project. Any questions about the what's next and what's forthcoming for next fiscal year? So if you guys could give me 2 minutes, I want to make sure I have my panel in the correct room. Next slide, please. We're going to put in room A, the water wastewater group, and in room B, the facilities group. So give me 2 minutes to make sure that I have them in the correct room. Okay. Let's see. I think I got everybody. Let me just double check. Okay. All right. So for the next 25 minutes, we'll be in the breakout session number 2. So I'm about to move you guys over to your breakout sessions. Sit tight. Oh, okay, there's measure. Okay, perfect. Whew, okay.
Somebody can give me a thumbs up that they can hear me okay. All right, good deal. Okay, so thanks for joining this breakout session.
At the beginning of the seminar, Rita went ahead and introduced everybody, but I would like to go over who is on the panel today so that everybody knows. My name is Chrissy Nunziato. I am the Professional Services Category Manager for JEA. We have Melanie Newton-Green, who is Facilities Associate Manager. Elaine Selders, our Senior Purchasing Agent on the Professional Services team. And we're very happy to welcome Zaki Furkan, who is a prime vendor and was awarded the Facilities Landscaping and Maintenance contract in 2019, who is a JSEB, but also a prime contractor. So today we have several talking points. And before we get into those, I just wanted to cover again one question that came up during the seminar, which was, how do I know about these JSEB opportunities? I just wanted to let everyone know that we have 2 types of solicitations that we post on our website. We have informal solicitations, which is anything less than $300,000, and formal solicitations, which are anything $3,000 and above. All of the solicitations are posted on the website, and it gives a description. They're titled. There's a description. If you click in, anybody can see them once they're posted. It gives a description of what the scope of work is, when we intend to close the solicitation and look at the bids, And then anything that's a formal solicitation, once that is awarded, it actually goes to the awards committee, which are public meetings. Anyone can attend those. And they are also, the information is posted on our website in many, many different ways throughout the process. So if you see something that you're interested and you're not sure how to go about letting us know that you could do some of the work, perhaps be a subcontractor. One other thing that I would also like to mention is in the awards, in the formal awards, there is, it does specify if there's a JSEB requirement, which means a percentage of work being awarded would be awarded to a JSEB vendor. So you can educate yourself. I encourage you to hop on our website, see what's there, and see if there's anything that you can provide some assistance on as well. So with that, I will go into talking about specific qualities and skill sets that we look for in a JSEB from the perspective of a product manager, the buyer, and the prime vendor. So you may think that these are kind of given with anybody who owns a business, but we'd like to reiterate that JEA looks for businesses and vendors that carry themselves professionally, have a high level of professionalism. They take pride in their work. They complete responsive. And I know I wanted to talk a little bit about responsiveness with regard,
Sorry,
what happened?
everyone. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I'm putting you back in the rooms. Apologies. Jesus.
A couple of ways that you can do that would be either through our qualified proposers list or a responsible bidder.
Completing your work and with high quality and being responsive. And one of the things that I wanted to also address with regard to responsiveness is oftentimes it's challenging because as a JSEB, you're trying to potentially manage the business and also perform some or all of the work. So I think when we say responsiveness, we're not talking about sitting at a desk and waiting for a phone call. We're talking about just making sure that you're in constant communication with the prime vendor or with JEA, depending on what the concern might be or what you're trying to do or what the request is, and just making sure that you're constantly, available and in the loop. So with that, one of the things that we'll talk about now is upcoming opportunities with JSEB Goals, and Melanie Newton-Green, the Associate Manager for Facilities, will talk about that now. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So my team actually works very closely with procurement in putting in place contracts that will be beneficial to facilities and JEA as a whole. For the upcoming fiscal year for 21, we have quite a few. For facilities, janitorial services and landscape plays a very large role in the contracts that you have that include JSEBs. And for fiscal year 21, actually janitorial services for our generating plants, for our substations, lift stations, and for all of our service centers will be going out. So that's pretty huge. So please be on the lookout for that. We'll also have HVAC services and installation, which will play a very large role. JSEBs could play a very large role in that contract. We have light bulbs and ballast that will be going out. Small construction, and the small construction contracts are actually just kind of not any projects.
Engineering solicitations. On the engineering side, we're asking for proposals, and we have the evaluation criteria listed out in the solicitation, and we just ask that you go through and make sure you hit each and every one. If we're asking for resumes, 5 resumes, we want to see 5 resumes, and with the proper titles and everything on them. And just go through and make sure you hit everything. One thing I do want to mention also is we do have a JA safety program, and you can go on ja.com/procurement in the Become a Vendor section. There's the application for it. If you're working on a JA site in a physical capacity,
those comments. I did get a question from Dipper Thompson.
That we want to highlight that today is because it just really showcases how hard work, determination, and mentorship in the program really can lead to opportunities with a scope this large. So one of the things that we have asked Zaki to address today was any tips that he could offer from the prime vendor perspective, and ways that you might be able to be successful like he was. We'll also ask Zaki to talk about some of the issues that have come up along the way, some of the struggles that he's encountered with a project of this magnitude, and hopefully it will help everybody else get some perspective right from somebody who's been through it. So Zaki, can you share some of those experiences with everyone, please?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I would like to thank JA for trusting in the ability of a JSEB to win a prime contract. I really didn't notice that the scope of work was so large, because sometimes when you can't see the trees for the forest. When you end the work, you don't notice it, but that was a large list that you read, and that's a challenge in and of itself. But we are grateful for the opportunity to provide the service for JEA. Some of the challenges and struggles that we've had is that we actually prepared to try to do 842 sites all together in-house. And as we were awarded the contract, we quickly noticed that there was a lot of work. So it gave us an opportunity to be mentors, JSEB, and prime contractors all at the same time. We took it upon ourselves to reach out to the community, and we hired about 5 other JSEBs to work in conjunction with us, being the prime contractor. So it's another struggle that we had. A lot of JSEBs were small. We out in the field, we field workers. We don't really have a human resource department or accounting department, and we got to do this at night with our wives or what have you. So this converted.
Somehow, Zaki, you're on mute.
Zaki,
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, we had a little bit of an issue with you being on mute. So I'm sorry, can you start over? I'm so sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, as I've written, I thank JEA for trusting in a JSEB and having having faith in a smaller company. Some of the challenges that we've had as a JSEB, most of us are we are in the field, and being in the field usually entails us not having an HR department because some of us are very small. And at the time, I didn't have an HR department. I didn't have a accounting department. So we had to get all of those things quick, fast, and in a hurry. And as we set out to do the job on our own, we realized that the task was greater than we expected. However, we were ready to take on the task. And we reached out to the community, to the JSEBs, other JSEBs. So we became JSEBs. We are JSEBs, we hired other JSEBs, and we became mentors at the same time. So we took it and we held classes with them or monthly meetings with them to allow them to really understand what the scope of work was, what's the scope of service, and we continue to have those meetings every month for improvement. And with the help of JEA, in the beginning, they helped us all the way through the process. They walked us hand in hand to be the vendors that we have become today. And we are very grateful for that opportunity.
Thank you, Zaki. One of the questions that came up in the last session was asking about Zaki's software that he's using. So Zaki, would you like to reiterate that for this group, please?
Sure. Excuse me. JEA has a requirement they need to see like photos of before and afterward. So we got a service called Jobber or Get Jobber, and that is a scheduling before and after picture, as well as route management and job completion software. So we took that software, so it makes it very easy for JEA as well, or our project manager from JEA as well as ourselves to interact on a daily basis to see what projects we have completed, what needs to be done, go in there and check on before and after pictures as well, which simplifies it because we gave them, our project manager, have a password code like everybody else, so he could go in at any time and see the progress where we are.
And so one of the things that also came up in the last session that I wanted to also reiterate was that Zaki has also, in bringing on additional JSEBs, he has also kind of been a mentor to JSEBs along the way. So he's a JSEB, he's a prime, and a mentor. So it's important work, and we appreciate Zaki, the work that you've done for us. And then we only have a couple more minutes, so I want to allow for some questions. But one of the things that you specifically addressed in the last breakout session was a couple of additional bumps along the way. So do you want to, in addition to needing to hire additional staff and that sort of thing, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss quickly?
Sure. Additional bumps along the way. Growing pains are real. Sometimes you don't see it. We were doing 150 to 175 sites prior to the JEA. So I like to do what they call measured growth, and this was unmeasured growth. I mean, we qualified, we met all the criteria, but this was unmeasured growth, and it's a growing pain to have to go from 4 trucks to 12 trucks in a matter of a month or two.
Yep.
So if you're bidding on work like this or any other type of work with facilities where you're going to have this large measure of growth, we encourage you to stay up on your paperwork, your taxes, and your credit, because all of those things are real important when you have a short time to get it done.
And then one of the other questions in the last breakout session, which I think was really important, was how did JEA select a company and have the confidence to award that project of such magnitude to a JSEB? And the answer is, you know, we did our due diligence, made sure that Zaki met the requirements of the solicitation, and we also awarded it for a year with renewals because we wanted to make sure that he could do the work that JEA needed him to perform, but we also wanted to make sure that he was comfortable and successful and could bring on the additional workers that he needed to do. So what I really want to make sure everyone knows is that we consider this a partnership. We love our JSEBs. We want you to succeed. We want to see growth. And so it's really, really important to us that we provide as many tools as possible to do that. So we have a couple more minutes. If anybody's got a question, please feel free to ask it. And while we're waiting for questions, just as I mentioned in the previous breakout session, if something comes up, you think of a question after this virtual seminar, please feel free to contact any one of us. We can help you. We'll answer it as best we can or put you in touch with someone who can. Okay, are the monthly meetings available to the public? So I think we're not sure. So we have the awards committee meetings are weekly. I think that might be what you're referring to, and those are public meetings. So when we award things in the awards committee meeting, that is open to the public. Anybody can join. So if you see something on the awards agenda that you're interested in learning about or, you know, want to attend, you certainly can. All of that information.
Okay, I think everyone is back from the breakout sessions. All right, so this brings us to the close of our program today. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for attending our very first virtual JSEB Summit. Like any virtual environment, we experienced just a few glitches. So I apologize for that. But I do hope that you gained some information today and you found that this program was valuable to you. I will be sending out a survey to get your feedback on your virtual experience. We always like to try to make these events as meaningful to you as possible. So, you know, I'd welcome your feedback. And I will include the slide deck so that you have that as a reference as well as the procurement roster so that you have contact information for the entire group. With that, I just want to say I hope that everyone has a safe and wonderful rest of your week. And again, thank you for participating in today's program. Thanks, everyone.